I'm Kat.
And I'm Hayley.
And this is Night Classy,
a tipsy night class teaching the oddities and curiosities you never learned in school.
Where are you taking us on this learning journey, Hayley?
On this learning journey, I have a pride lesson for us.
Yay.
I will be teaching us about a wrongfully demonized patient of the AIDS epidemic.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
All right.
What are you teaching us?
I will be telling you about a mysterious disease, also deadly disease, nicknamed the Laughing Death.
That's what I feel like when I'm being tickled. It's like, I'm like, this is surely the end of me. I am laughing so hard, but I am being tortured.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I was like tickled relentlessly, but it definitely feels like death.
Anytime something just barely tickles me, like I will I will purposefully get Tommy on his sides and then he'll retaliate. And I'm like, God, I did this to myself.
Yeah, it's like, why are you so much stronger than me?
Yes, it's
I don't understand.
It's scary how quickly I can be shut down.
Yeah.
And by tickling, it's the worst.
I do not tickle. I don't like being tickled. Sometimes I tickle Alec, but very briefly.
Just a brief tickling. Just a sprinkle of the tickle.
And then if he tickles me back, I'm angry.
Yeah, immediately I'm like, I don't deserve this.
No, what did I do to deserve this? I just tickled you and now you're doing it to me back.
I did nothing wrong.
I've never done anything wrong. Also,
Alec just left. We are recording one-on-one.
Daddy has left the building. The kids are home alone.
The principal is out of the office.
He has to go do research for his Smart Alec Patreon episode. So we're by ourselves.
We are. We're doing a marathon today. I have my Celsius sparkling strawberry lemonade ready to go. What do you have in your big ass cup?
I already drank a Celsius and I considered drinking another one. And then I thought, no, if I do that, I'll be dead.
That's risky.
It's risky. So instead I have liquid IV passion fruit flavor, which not my favorite flavor, but
liquid IV is a hit every time.
It's you can't go wrong. I also have a Cherry Coke Zero in my bag, so I have like that caffeine hit if I need it.
Yeah, you're stacked.
We're about to record for like fucking 5 hours. Gonna be dead.
We are. It's definitely gonna be a marathon, but it's gonna be worth it. You guys are going on vacation.
You could call it that. I'm going home to visit my parents.
You're going on a plane ride.
I'm going on a plane ride to somewhere I don't live, whether or not that's a vacation. No, I'm kidding. I'm looking forward to it. But I'm gonna be there for 2 weeks, so it's a long time.
You're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And you can read our new book on the plane. I am so excited about this. We each got a copy.
Yes. So there's a woman named Buzzy Jackson. She's a historian and an author, and she wrote a historical fiction about the Oversteegen sisters, the lesson Hayley covered.
Right. The sisters who fought against the Nazis through just their own free will and oh my God. And also I think the main character in this book is their friend, Honey Shaft. She was the one who had red hair, that she was like known by her red hair. And the cover is just beautiful. The book is called To Die Beautiful. And Buzzy Jackson, what a cute name. Thank you so much for sending us these. I cannot wait to dig into this book.
Me too. It's a gorgeous book, and Buzzy has been so kind. She reached out to us after we made that TikTok about Hayley's case, and she's been so supportive. So we're excited to support her. Please go buy the book. It's called To Die Beautiful by Buzzy Jackson. And then it has a different title in the UK. I think it's called The Girl with the Red Hair. Something like that. It'll be linked in the Patreon, or not the Patreon, the Spotify, Apple, whatever show notes. So you can please buy her book. It's gorgeous. I'm going to read it on my vacation. It's going to be my airplane book.
Hell yeah.
So excited.
And it smells so good. I love smelling books.
The book smells
new
good?
Books. Yeah, it just smells like new book.
Oh yeah, it smells like
good.
a book.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, did she? Okay, my mind went.
What could it possibly?
My mind went. Did she spray it with her perfume? That would be so crazy.
That would be intense. Actually, I'm gonna send it back to you, Buzzy, and then spray it with your perfume because I want to know you at a deeper, more personal level.
Yeah, that's true. I do love perfume, and I am always interested in what people are wearing. So I'm not even kidding. Like, tell me what
we're gonna
perfume
send it back. I'll pay for the postage, but I have to know what scent you're wearing.
That would be so freaking insane.
Can
you imagine?
It's like, what scent would be appropriate for this book? All right. Well, guys, seriously, check out this book if you like this story. She has taken a lot of time and research and effort to write this out. So I can't wait to get into it. I'll definitely be doing an update on how much we love it.
Yes, and I've gotten back in the reading game recently. I ebb and flow in how willing I am to read, but I finished a book recently, so I feel like I can continue this trend.
I think
finished
you can.
One yesterday.
You're on a freaking roll. You've got this.
I am.
She reads.
My brain is firing now.
The neurons are connecting.
Sometimes it doesn't, but right now we're on a good kick. I'm mentally and spiritually capable of reading at the moment.
And you recently officially started your witch journey.
Yes, the book was a witch book, which made it easy to read because that's fun to read.
Did you learn anything?
Oh, I learned a ton, and I'm going to tell you about some of it in our show and tell. So if you're a Patreon, that's where you can find out about my witchcraft journey.
Ooh, okay. I'm so excited now. I just want to skip right to it.
I know.
I'm like, let me just live on Patreon.
But we can't.
We cannot.
Some of us don't live on Patreon.
Some of us live on the main feed.
On the Spotify.
On the Apple.
On the
Podchaser. On the YouTube.
Podbean. Let's just name every podcast website we know.
Google Play.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks. Yeah, I had to
YouTube.
scratch deep. I already said YouTube.
Oh, okay.
You never listen to what I'm saying.
That's
hear
true.
Me, you just don't.
I have a hard time.
Thank you for admitting it.
Yeah, it's what we knew all along. You don't listen to me either. It's fine.
Okay, but I try so hard to. I do listen to you most of the time, but it's so hard for my brain sometimes.
I love it because I can always tell when you're listening and when you're not. Like sometimes like I just look up at you and your eyes are so glazed over. Like it's spelled all over your face when you're not listening. It's so funny.
Oh yeah. My dad used to say like I don't even have to ask you how you are, Hayley, because I can see it on your face. Like I know exactly what's going on. And the speech pathologist I work with the other day said something about that. He's like, I could tell you were like upset in that meeting. I was like, oh no.
At least you're not like me and just always look upset.
I don't think
I
don't
so.
have an RBF.
No, I don't think you have an RBF. You just
I'm like
whatever you're
masking,
feeling,
happy,
I can see.
And like pretending to smile all the time. Like I'll catch myself listening to your stories, like
and
just smiling for no reason.
I think humans in general smile more than we think we do. Like I think
it's a cultural thing too.
I think so because I mean every freaking video we make about a serious topic, we get people in the comments like telling us we're fucked up people because we're smiling and we're not even smiling. Yeah. I think it's just like our listening face and then it like gets read as smiling and then I get really self-conscious. Like sometimes I'll remember I'm on film and then I'll be like, oh, I can't smile. And then I purposely try to look upset because I am upset, but like it's hard to convey emotions on your face.
We know that this will end up on TikTok and on YouTube. And yeah, we might be fucked up people, but that is not the reason why we're fucked up people.
No.
Listen to the pod, get to know us. You'll figure it out.
Yeah,
quick.
you'll get plenty of ideas. Should we get started? I feel like a lost puppy without Alec in here directing us.
To like shush us along.
He got mad at me. If you're on Patreon listening to our extra credits, you know this, but I got in trouble last week because I didn't commentate enough during Hayley's lesson. So
immediately too.
Like immediately got chewed out.
Intense. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
It was very weird. He's apologized, but sorry, I don't mean to put Alec on blast. It really wasn't that bad. It was just funny. But I told him that I'm not going to talk at all during Hayley's lesson.
Yeah, I'm just going to read. I'm just going to pull up the Wikipedia page on the topic. Screw my notes.
Whenever, like on recording days, I always read my notes out loud, like one time through just to practice a little bit.
Yeah.
And I just I read at them out loud, but like as fast as I can. And like there's no inflection in my voice or anything. It's just like saying the words. I'm going to just do that. And this episode's going to last 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure it would. Without all of my interjections and my brain trains, you might even be done in a good 4.5.
It's only 3 pages, 12-point font.
Oh, shit.
You could do a minute per page.
Hey, shorty.
I've found 3 pages is about the sweet spot. I used to do like 6 to 8.
Yeah.
And that was too much, I think. But anyway.
Yeah, could be.
Depends on the lesson.
I need to cut my lessons down.
Are you ready to hear about some things?
I can't. All day I've been thinking, I cannot wait to hear about some things.
All day I've been thinking we have to record 3 episodes. And that's a lot. Okay, well, let's get started. So, for a long time, the highlands of Papua New Guinea were believed by Westerners to be uninhabited. That is until about the 1930s when gold prospectors exploring the area found about 1 million people living there, completely cut off from the rest of the world. Eventually, in the 1950s, anthropologists and other researchers began visiting the villages and studying the people there. One of the groups they spent time with was a tribe called the Four. The Four told researchers about a horrible plague that had befallen their village. They called the sickness Kuru, which means shivering or trembling. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure. We talked about it so much in my medical anthropology classes that I had just assumed everyone knew about it. So I never wanted to cover it as a topic, but then I did.
We're running out of topics.
No, I'm glad. I'm really happy you haven't heard of it. That's going to make this so much more interesting for you. So, Kuru symptoms occur in 3 stages. The first sign a person may show is an unsteady gait, decreased muscle control, and difficulty pronouncing certain words. They also might have tremors. So, just kind of losing control of some of their bodily movements.
Yeah, is it like a muscular syndrome?
Partially. So, during the first stage, they're still able to walk. And eventually they will lose the ability to walk on their own. And when that happens, they've entered the second stage. In stage 2, a person will have severe tremors. They will be shaking uncontrollably. They will not have good enough control of their limbs to walk, like I said. They might also have emotional outbursts. Depression is really common, but strangest of all, they get bouts of uncontrollable laughter.
And there was nothing like this that we had seen outside of this uncontacted group of
it
people?
Seemed to researchers that this was specific to this group of people. And it's really jarring. Can you imagine several people in a village just unable to move and just laughing? It was scary for everyone involved.
Yeah, it feels like possession.
Yeah, and that's what this group thought. So finally, when you're in stage 3, that's the terminal stage. You're not only not able to walk, but you can no longer sit up. You lose control of your bodily functions. You become incontinent and unable to swallow. And you develop chronic ulcerated wounds that become easily infected. Oh. So it's just the worst way to die. So the wounds
just evolve on your skin, or it's if you get touched, your skin's really fragile?
No, I think you get ulcers, blisters and stuff, kind of like the plague.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're not putting antibiotics in them, they're likely to become infected.
You need to get some Aquifer.
Yes, they really needed some Aquaphor. That could have solved this entire problem.
Cured it all.
I've been putting Aquaphor on my eczema spots on my hands, and that's worked better than anything else I've tried. So
Aquaphor is the shit.
It's the magical elixir of life, I think. Only then it makes my hands greasy. But that's okay.
That's the downside. You got to put it on when you're going to bed.
Yeah. Sometimes I put it on in my car, and then I'm trying to drive and my hands are slipping all over the wheel. Yeah. It's very dangerous.
That's sounds scary. My gosh. They sell those like feet and hand masks that you can wear.
I used to have to sleep in cotton gloves because my eczema was so bad. I had to like put salve all over them and then sleep in gloves. It was a really cool thing to do.
A really cool thing.
Yeah, I felt special. All right, so once you're in the terminal phase, the patient has between 3 months and 2 years to live, which is horrible. Like, this kills you slowly. What ultimately ends up killing you exactly is usually like pneumonia or a secondary infection. People would also become really malnourished because they weren't able to swallow. It's just a fucked up way to go. The 4 tribe consisted of about 11,000 individuals, which were divided up into smaller villages. And Kuru was killing about 200 of them per year. So it was not insignificant. Pretty much everyone like knew someone at least who had the disease. And it was mainly affecting women and young children under 8 years old. And some villages were hit harder than others. So some villages were hit so hard they barely had any young women left. And because of this, they knew they were on the brink of extinction.
Did they have an idea of how it was passed on to other people?
So the 4 people believed it was a result of evil sorcery. They believed in witches and thought that somebody was cursing and specifically targeting women. They thought that ghosts were causing these symptoms like shaking and laughing, kind of like you said, like it looks like possession. I would probably think this too.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What else would it be?
Right. And especially because it's weird because it's not like other diseases where it'll like affect everyone in the same house, like something contagious, you know, like if everyone gets the flu, like it's weird how it seems to only go for women.
Yeah, like kind of ping pongs around, but just for specific people.
Yeah.
I hope I get some answers as to why this is.
You'll get some answers. To treat the disease, they were feeding people casuarina leaves or casuarina bark because I think this was supposed to help cure you of possession, but that wasn't helping. And panic is really building because if this kills all the women, like you're fucked as a society. So tribe members hoped that the doctors, medical anthropologists, and biologists of the Australian research teams would be able to help them.
Okay. That's a positive way to, I don't know, be introduced to Western.
Yeah, and I think some of them, I'm sure, were hesitant. For a good reason.
Sure. Yeah.
But it seems like you're desperate at this point, especially if you're in one of these hard-hit villages. So when Australian officials first noticed the disease in 1953, they believed it was a psychosomatic illness caused by the 4's belief in witchcraft and sorcery. So basically, they thought it was mass hysteria because like the 4 people were telling them like this is witchcraft, and the researchers thought like, or not even researchers at this point, just like mining officials thought like, oh, because they believe they're possessed, they are possessed.
You can't have like a medication against witchcraft, and then you have to believe, you know, if some elixir or whatever that you do create to cure the thing against witchcraft, if it's all in your mind, then I don't know, it just complicates things even further.
And the first people
also dismisses it.
And the first people there like didn't give a fuck about the population. They were there to find gold. So it was just like, oh, they're crazy. They believe in witches. Moving on, essentially. Yeah. But the disease kept going and reached epidemic proportions in the following years. People were literally dying. So it became obvious that something needed to be done. Researchers knew from autopsies that the disease affected the brain. Victims who had died from Kuru had brains resembling sponges, covered in large holes.
Oh, it's like opposite of koala brain.
Yeah.
We have
what if they were possessed by koala spirits and the koalas were giving them everything they had to live without?
Oh, shit. And Papua New Guinea, there's probably koalas there, right?
You think? Isn't Papua New Guinea like off of the African coast?
I don't know. You said something about the Australians
were there.
Researchers, so I thought...
I am so ignorant. I literally don't even know.
I am too. I don't either.
All right. Ignore that.
That was just a leap. Yeah, we're going to look into it.
Yeah. So researchers at first ruled out contaminants. They looked through anything like any poisonous things on the island that could possibly be causing this.
Yeah, and especially because the miners were there. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you're mining shit, stuff could come up and contaminate the water.
Yeah, but I mean, the miners and like researchers and everyone was there, and none of them were getting sick either, which was super sus.
Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. So Papua New Guinea is north of Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, wow, I was way off. I was thinking of Madagascar. Oh my fucking God. Okay. All right. So, yeah, do they have koalas? That's a good question, Hayley.
Well, we'll Google that too.
Okay.
With Alec not here being able to Google stuff for
now
us.
We have to do the heavy lifting. So after contaminants were rolled out, they believed the disease might be genetic. To test this, medical anthropologist Shirley Lindenbaum traveled village to village doing interviews and mapping out family trees. And while she's mapping out family trees, she's also mapping out the spread of this illness. Through this research, she noticed that the disease started in the north around the turn of the century and moved south. She also found that it affected women and children in the same social groups, but not necessarily the same genetic groups, meaning that it is not a genetic defect. And it was weird that the disease was not affecting men in the same way it affected women. Like, pretty much no men had this, but little boys could get it.
That darn Eve.
That darn Eve. So
the plight of women, Kuru.
So researchers knew, like, okay, it's like that's super weird. Like, usually sicknesses aren't gender specific, and like if little boys can get it, like it was just strange. So they started looking into behaviors of the women and like things the women did that the men didn't, and one difference stuck out. The four had really unique funerary traditions, at least by Australian standards. So when a loved one died, it was customary for those close to them to consume the body. And for the four, this was an act of love and honor. It was considered more respectful to the dead to be eaten by the people who cared about them than to be eaten by worms and maggots and animals and shit.
Right on, yeah. If you're going to be eaten either way.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So ritual cannibalism included the women removing the brain, mixing it with ferns, and then cooking it in tubes of bamboo. They fire roasted everything else and ate every part of the body except the gallbladder. And the kicker is that only women did this.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Why not the gallbladder if they're eating everything else?
I don't know. I imagine it had some kind of spiritual significance or something about their religion, nasty. I would imagine. Yeah, it's just gross. So it was believed that only women's bodies were capable of containing a dangerous spirit that was thought to accompany the dead body. So men were forbidden from doing this.
From preparing the body? From eating it?
Both, I think. I don't think the men weren't allowed near the dead body, and it was definitely only women that were eating it. And when women ate, they occasionally gave their children snacks, little bits of whatever they were eating. So that's maybe how the children were getting infected.
It seems like that might be.
Yeah, checks out. After boys reached a certain age in this tradition, they would transition to living with the men of the village. So the men and women, at least the young men, lived separately.
It sounds great.
Right? And when the boys reached that age, they were told, like, not to eat the dead bodies anymore. Don't do that. So researchers had a hunch that Kuru was the result of cannibalism, so it would seem. To test their theory, a group at the U.S. National Institutes of Health injected the brain tissues from an infected 11-year-old girl into chimpanzees. They started by testing it in some other types of animals, and nothing happened. So chimpanzees are really close to people, so then they did that. Within 2 years, one of the chimps, Daisy, began showing symptoms of Kuru.
Oh, no,
I
Daisy.
know, not Daisy. This, though, demonstrated that the disease is spread through brain tissue, which I know, which was a really important breakthrough and earned the group a Nobel Prize.
Oh, man. Is this something that the brain, just like if you eat a dead person's brain, you can get, or they have to be infected in life?
They have to be infected in life. So the group dubbed Kuru the slow virus because of its long incubation period. A lot of times you would not show any symptoms for years and years. But later researchers found that it's not a virus at all. This is a misnomer.
What are you?
Where are you?
And I'm so sorry.
Neurologist Stanley Prusiner of UC San Francisco found that the real culprit is a protein called a prion. It's a type of twisted, misshapen protein that influences the healthy proteins around it to contort like it.
It sounds like an alien.
Yeah.
Prion, even the name.
Prion, yeah. It does. And I think maybe
it is.
Maybe that is like a word for like, I don't know.
For what?
Like an alien substance, and then like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just confused. I think I'm just confused. So
which came first, the prion or the protein?
It's like bad peer pressure. Like it makes all the proteins around it act up, like it's acting up. And eventually it causes enough proteins to become misshapen that it kills the nerve cells they're attached to, and that's what leaves the gaping holes in the brain.
Oh man. I wonder if does it hurt?
I imagine it hurts.
It sounds like it hurts.
I mean,
it sounds painful.
Really sounds like it. Based on all the symptoms we went over in the beginning, I think it hurts. Prions are extremely difficult to destroy. They can't even be destroyed in boiling water. And they're just a protein. So they're not recognized by the immune system as a foreign body. So your body does nothing to protect itself from them. They're kind
like
of
spies in your body.
Yeah, they're just able to freely propagate. For this reason, prions are practically untreatable and nearly always fatal. For his work, Prusiner was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1997. And Kuru is specific to this one group of people, but prion diseases occur all over the world. Like people are killed by them. It's pretty rare. They also don't normally spread. Like it's usually a weird isolated condition and then that's it. But because the group of the four, they were eating infected brains, that's how this was able to spread through their population.
Where does it come from originally? Do we know? Have they like traced it back?
Where does the Kuru come from?
Mm-hmm.
I think one person probably just had like a what do you call it?
Like a mutation?
Yeah, a mutation.
Oh.
And then the other people got it. Mm-hmm. So there's a disease called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is essentially what Kuru is. It's these prion proteins in your brain like fucking shit up and destroying your brain. And it's a neurological disorder. It's very similar to Kuru. So what we think is that someone got that and then it spread through the whole population.
How long was this going on there?
It started at the turn of the century and lasted through like the 1960s. So 60 years. Mm-hmm.
Is there treatment for it?
Or the 19th century, it would have been, did I say the 19th century or the 20th century? I think in my research, I said turn of the century.
Yeah, so I'm guessing early 1900s.
Yeah, probably early 1900s. So yeah, not a terribly long time, but like if it had gone unchecked, it could have been like
taking them all out.
Yeah. Although some people were immune, so not everyone who participated in cannibalism contracted Kuru. Researchers in 2009 discovered a genetic variant in Eastern Highland Papua New Guineans that made them strongly resistant to Kuru. And this likely evolved just like in that small amount of time.
I freaking love quick evolution.
Me too. It's so cool. Researchers hoped that this study of like looking at these people who are immune could help lead to a better understanding and possible treatment for other prion-related diseases like Alzheimer's. In 1959, cannibalism was banned in Papua New Guinea, but it still happened even after it was technically banned for a little while, but it petered out like by the end of the 1960s. But because prion diseases have a really long incubation period, like sometimes you can have it for 30 years.
And not even know.
Cases of Kuru did not go away with the end of cannibalism. The last person with Kuru died in 2009.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So it really stuck around.
Yeah.
It was just hanging out. I guess if you had to have it, then, lying dormant for 30 years doesn't sound so bad to me.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's awful.
You want it to take as long as it possibly can to show up.
It could just never show up. It could be texting me on my way and still be getting ready for decades, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it would be kind of nice. And then like if it was dormant for 30 years, you could potentially be really old and like ready to die anyway when it finally comes. In 2012, researchers at the Curtin University in Australia officially declared the Kuru epidemic to be over. And even though Kuru is over, people still get infected by prion diseases. Mad cow disease is one of them that people were getting by eating infected beef. So they're definitely still out there. And we're always on the lookout for more that could be emerging because if you get it, like you die, you're fucked. So people are like really worried. One that researchers are currently nervous about is chronic wasting disease, which affects deer and elk in North America. So that hasn't spread to humans yet, but we're keeping an eye on it. The disease causes the animals to starve to death. And this one is especially scary because it's a really unique prion in that it is not relegated to the brain. Like it is throughout the animal's entire body. So if you eat any of the animal and we become susceptible to it, like you are fucked. And obviously people hunt deer and elk and eat them. So this is a concern. So far, no humans have been infected and like it looks like it can't spread to humans. But
shit happens.
Shit happens. And we know these things have a really long period of dormancy.
Right.
So like it could have spread. We just don't know yet.
You're safe as a vegetarian.
I know. I have never eaten wild venison.
That is good. As you know, I dated a country man in high school. And I have had my share of wild meat, but that was a previous lifetime for me.
You wouldn't do it again?
No.
Why not?
No, I wouldn't. I don't know. Because of what you just told me. What do you mean?
Well, I don't think squirrels get it. I know you're a squirrel eater.
Okay, one time. I'll try anything once.
I will never let you live that down. And it wasn't even a forest squirrel. It was an attic squirrel.
It was a domesticated squirrel.
No, it wasn't. Don't say it like that.
No, it wasn't. I was young. What can I say? Young and in love.
Like willing to do anything.
Literally.
For your love. God, that's so crazy. Okay.
So embarrassing.
Well, that's all I have.
My God.
Alec isn't here to force us to read an ad. So should we just
I would, but I have to go use the restroom so bad. Do you want to just rant by yourself for 2 minutes? Do you know how to pause it?
You know what? I will do an ad for Buzzy Jackson's book. I will read you the insert in the cover while you go to the bathroom.
Okay, I'm going to run. Here
Okay. Okay. So the inside of the cover says, a heart-rending novel based on a true story of love, loyalty, and the limits we confront when our deepest values are tested. It says, how far would you go to protect the people and country you love? It's 1940, and Hannie Schaft is a shy 19-year-old law student living in Nazi-occupied Holland with ambitious goals for her future. But dreams die in wartime, and Hannie's closest friends are no longer safe as fascism insidiously rises in her country. Hiding them is not enough. Hannie may be young, but she can't stand aside as the menace of Nazi evil tightens its grip. Driven by love and mortal outrage, Hannie soon becomes an armed member of the Dutch resistance movement. Hannie discovers her own untapped ferocity, wearing lipstick and heels to lure powerful Nazis close and assassinate them at point-blank range, and bombing munitions factories. As humanity collapses around her, Hannie finds a chosen family of friends within the resistance and falls in love with a dashing fellow resistor at a tremendous cost. Her greatest weapon is her determination to stay human, a promise increasingly difficult to keep. As Hannie draws deeper into a web of plots, disguises, and assassinations, whispers spread like wildfire among enemy and friend alike. They all know of her, if not her name. She's the girl with red hair. A match for any Nazi soldier, a true threat and a target. To Die Beautiful is a timely look at how fascism flourishes, and what good people do to fight back. Based on real events, To Die Beautiful is told with a drama and emotional resonance of meticulously researched history. That was perfect timing, Hayley. She's back. She's getting her headphones on. Here she is.
Hello.
Hello.
That was good timing. Now you guys know how much time it takes me to run literally to the restroom.
You're panting. You ran.
No, I did. I was like nervous that you were going to be sitting here just like, and another thing.
My plan was to read the reviews on the back of the book if I needed to.
Smart. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great reviews, so maybe we'll include those too.
And that little description gave me chills. I literally can't wait to read this book. We are not being paid for this promotion. It just seems like an awesome book. So buy it.
You guys know we're real.
Hashtag real.
Hashtag real. All right, are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do this thing. So, Gaëtan Dugas was born in Quebec, Canada in 1953. He was a French-Canadian flight attendant for Air Canada, and he absolutely loved his job. Now, initially, he went to cosmetology school, but when the bans were lifted from men being able to be flight attendants, he landed his dream job. He's like, this is what I was meant to do.
Yes. In another life, I think if I somehow lost my teaching job, I'd probably be a flight attendant.
I seriously considered it because after college, I was like, I don't really know what direction I want to go. It seems fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like your 20s is a perfect time to do it. I mean, there's really no age limit on it. But for me, it seemed like a good time.
Exactly. I don't know if I could do it forever because you're on the go so much. Like some people commute to an entirely different part of the country for their job as a flight attendant, which...
Yeah.
But right now would be a good time.
Yeah, you only get paid flying time and you have to often, I think, share hotel rooms with other flight attendants.
Yeah, there's certainly problems where they need some better workers' rights, but it would be nice to travel.
It would. And Gaétan absolutely loved it. In 1974, he was living his best 22-year-old life as a flight attendant. He was hot, charismatic, and sexually liberated. The uniforms for flight attendants might not always be cute per se, but they are when you tailor your own to be skin tight like Gaétan did.
That's incredible.
Yeah, all I could picture was Britney Spears in the Toxic music video. That's what he's giving. He cut up with his coworkers who were mostly females, and if you can't tell by now, he was a gay man. They shared makeup tips and held competitions to see who could sleep with the most attractive male passengers. One of his best friends and also a fellow flight attendant was a woman with the same name, Gaétan, but her last name was Urvig.
That's crazy. I've never heard that. It must be a French name.
Yes.
I've never heard it before.
Definitely. Gaétan was well known and well loved coast to coast. But in 1980, he was diagnosed with Kaposi sarcoma, a rare skin cancer that would later be linked to AIDS. In 1982, he was sick and getting worse as time went on with what was then called, quote, gay cancer.
Oh my God.
In a letter to a former lover and friend, Ray Redford, Gaétan wrote that he'd shaven his head before chemotherapy would take it and felt nude without it, quote, like an alien. He was definitely ready to fight and beat the cancer, but HIV/AIDS was severely under-researched, and the formal name wasn't given or even used in the mainstream until the mid-1980s.
What year are we in now?
So right now, we're in the early 80s.
Okay.
We're going to kind of jump around this timeline. There's
Okay.
a couple different ways that we're going to go about this story. Besides fighting his illness, Gaétan had other battles to fight as his name became synonymous with the controversy in early days of the AIDS epidemic. Today, we're going to cover the truth behind this myth that Gaëtan Dugas was, quote, patient zero of the AIDS epidemic, and talk about the lasting impact of his story. In the early 1980s, the world was facing a new and unknown disease, and it's crazy how sometimes our lessons are so similar with these diseases that we don't really know what's going on, and it takes a lot of research. But, you know, in the 80s, we're facing the AIDS epidemic that would later be named the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And as the medical community raced to understand the virus causing the epidemic, Gaëtan Dugas found himself at the center of all of this attention. News anchors reported Gaëtan Dugas, a Canadian flight attendant, has been identified as patient zero.
Why would you blame one person and say their name on the news?
It makes no sense.
That is crazy.
They said that he was the man responsible for spreading the deadly virus across North America.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if they did that with COVID?
Oh no.
How?
That would lead to death threats, if not like
actually
action.
killing
Yes.
someone. Yeah.
It's a total witch hunt, and they completely villainize this man who was a victim.
Yeah,
of
and how can
HIV/AIDS.
you be like, get started with them? That doesn't even
You can't.
It doesn't make sense.
And we'll get to it.
Okay.
Contrary to popular belief, Gaétan was not patient zero, but one of the first individuals to be diagnosed with AIDS. And not even like one of the first. He was like within the first 100 people to be diagnosed with AIDS in North America. However, due to a terrible misunderstanding, he was incorrectly labeled as the not only primary spreader of the disease, but an intentional spreader of the disease. This story is heartbreaking, and it's important, and I feel like we were just born outside of really growing up in and around like knowing the AIDS epidemic,
Yeah.
like people in the mid to late 80s did. So I hadn't heard about this story before.
I haven't either.
And I'm really excited to tell it because it's important. The misinterpretation began with a study conducted by CDC researchers in March 1984. It was known as a cluster study. Gaétan was living in New York, and he agreed to interview with CDC investigator Bill Darrow. Bill Darrow asked him about his sexual activity, and Gaétan was extremely cooperative. He answered all of the questions, and this study aimed to trace the sexual liaisons of individuals who they knew had AIDS. Gaétan Dugas, known for his charismatic personality and numerous sexual partners, willingly participated in the study. It was completed by 40 AIDS cases in the United States, focusing particularly in California and New York. Luckily for the researchers, Gaétan kept an address book, so like his little black book, of some of his sexual partners. And that completed a list of 72 contacts, but he'd estimated he had had over 750 sexual partners in the last 3 years. My computer just did something crazy. So he was getting it on the regular, and Gaétan became patient 75 in this study, or as his code name in the study was Patient O, the letter O standing for out of state or out of California, because these researchers were based in California. Gaétan was living in New York.
Okay.
So it's like either they're in California or they're out of California.
Are the ones in state I?
They're just pee-pee. I don't know what they were, but he was Patient O. And there was this book written about the epidemic. It's called And the Band Played On, written by journalist Randy Shilts, who is an asshole, in my opinion. He used the term Patient Zero to describe Gaétan and
but it was O.
It was
Oh my God.
He started using the name Patient Zero for Gaétan after he heard Patient O incorrectly, like he just misheard it. And some sources say that he saw it written out and saw Patient Zero.
I mean, it's it's an understandable mistake.
It is.
I mean, the repercussions make it unforgivable, but
he cited, I don't know. I think that he also knew and could have easily clarified what it was.
Yeah.
Because you remember thinking, oh, Patient Zero has a ring to it. And Patient Zero wasn't even a term until this story. This created Patient Zero.
Oh, wow.
Which also the term doesn't really even make sense. Like zero means nothing.
Yeah.
So if anything, it'd be Patient One to argue about semantics.
Yeah.
But Gaétan was not Patient Zero. If anything, he was one of the most crucial participants in this research.
Yeah, that would suck to like think you're helping and think that it will stay anonymous, whatever you're telling researchers.
Oh my God. I can't wait to tell you about the anonymity, because that was protected at first, but Randy Shilts takes it upon himself. And we'll talk about that in just a second.
Is that not illegal?
Oh, I'm sure it has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. As the cluster study findings were published, the media took hold of the story and completely sensationalized it, much like Randy did in his story. So it's one thing to make a quote unquote honest mistake. I don't think it was an honest mistake at all that he called him Patient Zero, but he really, really demonized Gaétan in his book. And I'll flesh that out more in a minute. But in the media, it's being sensationalized as well, turning Gaétan into this villainous figure. He's portrayed as this reckless, promiscuous individual who's responsible for spreading AIDS across the United States on purpose. He was compared to Mary Mallon, or as you may know her, Typhoid Mary, the cook who ignored directions not to prepare food, as she was an asymptomatic carrier of salmonella. So that was, one of his nicknames, and he was demonized as this knowing participant in quote super spreader. Shilts put the blame of the entire epidemic in the United States on Gaétan, even though the small study made no claim of the sort. The media just latched onto it because it was a story.
Yeah.
The New York Post called Gaétan, quote, the man who gave us AIDS.
Oh my God.
As if he just created it and decided that he was going to spread.
And if nobody like really knew about it, like you wouldn't think cancer is contagious, you know? Like that wouldn't be your first thought. And I mean, I'm sure he had it for a long time and had no symptoms and didn't know.
That's exactly right, because much like Kuru that you were telling us about, it can lay dormant for, a month or even 30 years. It's just so variable, and he did have it for, we'll get to being able to trace it back, but it's just so heartbreaking and outrageous looking back at it. The public backlash against Dugas was immense, and he faced intense scrutiny and personal attacks. This narrative not only stigmatized Gaétan, but also reinforced harmful stereotypes about the LGBTQIA+ community. And as we all know, the government wasn't doing shit either. Years later, when researchers sequenced the virus samples from early AIDS cases, they found that Gaétan Dugas was not the source of the epidemic. The virus had been circulating independently in various communities before Gaétan ever even contracted it. But he was caught up in this wave of panic and misinformation, and research shows that multiple strains of the virus were already present in North America before he contracted the disease. Unfortunately, it wasn't until 2016 that Gaétan was officially exonerated.
Oh my God. Is he still alive?
No.
Oh, was he alive when he was exonerated?
No, he wasn't even alive when his name got dragged through the mud.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. That is good.
Yeah.
That is good.
I mean, not good that he died, obviously, but I was thinking he was alive while everyone was I think he saying this and then never
he may
got
have
to see.
seen some of it. He died in 1984, and I think the book was published 2 years after he died.
Okay. So he was also, it was easy for everyone to blame him because he was gone and an easy scapegoat.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It is, truly. So where was I here? Right. Let's get to how he was quote unquote exonerated, because I hate using that term because
it makes it sound like he actually did something.
Researcher Dr. Michael Warby and his team set out to map the HIV genome from before the disease had been discovered. So they were able to use samples from a study of hepatitis B with gay men from the late 70s, before HIV was on, the public's radar. They collected over 2,000 blood samples, and since viruses change and evolve, the genome had mutated by the time the epidemic officially began in 1981. Dr. Warby said, quote, "It's hard to get RNA from such old samples. So we had to devise a new technique where we stitched little fragments together. We were able to complete the HIV genome from 8 samples from the 1970s. They were able to examine a sample from Gaétan as well and found, quote, neither biological nor historical evidence that he was the primary case in the United States. And like I said before, what's insane is that patient zero wasn't even a term until the AIDS epidemic, and Gaétan was punished and ridiculed for sharing this wealth of just vital information that helped further the research, but the biggest thing was proving that it was a sexually transmitted disease.
Right. At the very least, it's patient zero that we say today and not patient Gaétan, just forever connected to his name.
So true. He can live on in infamy.
Yeah. Anonymity.
Yeah, anonymity. That would be best. When Randy Schultz was writing his book, the CDC wouldn't disclose Gaétan's identity as patient O. Randy took it upon himself to out Gaétan, and he started asking around. According to a Vice article, quote, "According to the Bulletin of the History of Medicine, it was Gay Men's Health Crisis President Paul Popham who identified Gaétan as patient zero. Popham's boyfriend had dated Gaétan and later died of AIDS. Schultz said he realized that Paul, who had visible lesions on his face, was dying from a virus from this guy. And it was like I was seeing the legacy of this person in his virus. Mm-hmm. This, to me, I just have such mixed emotions about it. And Randy Schultz, I feel like I hope he had good intentions when he set out to write the book, because he himself was a gay man and he was appalled at the lack of funding and attention from the government, news outlets, and doctors. Just everything was shitty, right? And under the Reagan administration, presidential spokesman Larry Speaks implied that anyone talking or asking about AIDS must be gay. So there's just so much shame ignorance and people unwilling to work and even do further research into it. And it's like, well, you would know how it's spread if you did research on it. And to discriminate someone just based off their sexuality it's so fucked. It's so fucked.
To let an entire group of people suffer and die for years.
And straight people are like, well, we can't get it.
So who cares?
They didn't.
So fucked.
For his book, Schultz interviewed a San Franciscan public health worker, Selma Dritz. And she had worked with Gaétan. She told Schultz that she had tried to get Gaétan to stop having sex when they suspected that it could be sexually transmitted. But he said he would continue having unprotected sex because it wasn't proven that HIV was sexually transmitted. And there were still a ton of other theories about the cause of HIV. And according to the National Institutes of Health, only about 10% of gay men used condoms before 1980 because they're like, well, we don't have to worry about being pregnant. But by 1987, 78% of gay men reported using condoms. It wasn't until 1973 even that homosexuality was removed from the DSM as a mental illness. And many gay men saw the sexual transmission theory of AIDS as a way for people to police them and police their sexuality.
And spread stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. Gaétan... Oh, is that the right part? Yeah, okay. Gaétan died 2 years before Schultz's book came out, so he never saw how he was displayed. And Schultz even created these inner monologues for the people he showcased from his own imagination.
That's weird.
It's really weird. It could have been so different. It could have been like a real historical, firsthand experience, but he just put out this trash. And despite having interviewed, well, I don't know if it sounds like trash. I haven't read it. And despite interviewing friends of Gaétan's and having ample access to a well-rounded description of the seemingly wonderful person Gaétan was, Schultz left all of that out. Publications drew upon the frequently rehearsed narrative of a disease introduced by a foreigner. Quote, Canadians said to have had a key role in spread of AIDS, wrote the New York Times, while the National Review nicknamed Gaétan, quote, the Columbus of AIDS.
What?
So rude. Don't you ever compare me to Columbus. No, says the white girl. I hope not. Gaétan was villainized in this book, which bled into the media. He was tied to Ryan White. That was the teenager who contracted AIDS after receiving a blood transfusion. The media was like, look at what Gaëtan Dugas did. Like, this is why this unsuspecting teenager got AIDS. He was really the scapegoat. But the reality is that AIDS was in America long before Gaétan was. The virus had been circulating in North America at least since 1970, and it arrived on the continent through the Caribbean from Africa. And this is all from the research that was done when mapping out the HIV genome and the study that, quote unquote, exonerated Gaétan. They found that the sequences they put together to be similar to HIV strains present in the Caribbean, but the strains were different from one another, suggesting the virus had already been circulating and mutating in California and New York. The strain that had killed Gaétan didn't match the others, proving he was just another person who got AIDS before it was ever even noticed. Dr. Warby stated, on the family tree of the virus, Dugas fell in the middle, not at the beginning.
Was he blamed just because he had so many sexual partners?
Yeah, documented sexual partners. Right. Yeah, it was really easy to look at. And since he had so many that they were able to reference and people were willing to discuss it, when they mapped it out, it was like initially like he was in the middle because they had so many different parts of this web to look into.
And they could just connect him to enough cases.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And it's like, man, no good deed goes unpunished.
Seriously.
Jesus Christ.
Not that this is at all the same thing, but I'm obsessed with completing the health surveys on 23andMe.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, you can answer a bunch of questions and it helps them make predictions with genomes in the future.
What kind of questions do you get asked?
Oh, there's hundreds. I've spent hours doing it. I don't know, just anything about your health, your eating habits, your phenotype.
This is the ultimate BuzzFeed quiz.
That's why I do it. It's fun. And a lot of it's really boring. It's have you or anyone in your family had this disease or this disease or this disease? And then but then some of them are fun. It's what color are your eyes? What are you more likely? Do you eat this? Do you eat this vegetable? How many times a week? Just random stuff like that.
By the end of it, I'd be emailing 23andMe I haven't gotten my personalized subscription box yet. You're filling out a FabFitFun questionnaire.
That's how it feels. And I've done so many of these surveys that I've done every single one that's available. So I get excited when I get an email saying there's a new one out. And I'm I have a little top contributor badge. It's very fun. I recommend
love how rewarding those types of things are. For you specifically. You're I've got the little badge. I got my whatever many days on Duolingo.
And I called it a badge. It's not even a badge. It's just a little thing that pops up on my screen whenever I go to the quiz page saying I've contributed more than 99.9% of users, which I feel is a badge of honor.
Yeah, you're motivated by competition for sure.
But now after this story, I'm how can this be used against me? I've answered so many personal questions.
It's gonna come back and bite you in the ass. It's have you or anyone you know started a podcast?
Have you or anyone you know said everything embarrassing thing they can think of about themselves out on a podcast, saying I don't know where fucking Papua New Guinea is, getting it confused with Madagascar. It's out for the world to see.
Maps are hard.
Everything is hard.
Everything is hard.
Everyone is stupid.
So true. It's all simulation. I'm not worried about it.
So true.
I'm not fucking worried about it.
I'm doing something.
So do you get to see information based off of these questions that you're answering?
No, it's to help them with research in the future. So it doesn't tell me anything.
Dang.
Yeah.
I would need to know.
It's just fun. But the thing is someday maybe it will tell me things. But right now they're collecting data.
You're part of the system now.
Yeah.
You're in there. I'm
a cog.
You're a cog in the system. Well, let's close this out with I have good news and I have bad news. Randy Schultz died.
What?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
He died.
We've said that.
Of AIDS himself, which is crazy. But I'll have to read the book.
Oh, wait. Oh, Randy. We didn't say that.
Randy is the asshole
okay.
author. Yeah.
And he died of AIDS?
And he died of AIDS.
Did he know he had
90s.
AIDS when he was writing his book?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because that, I guess, would make sense why he was like, had such a chip on his shoulder. I mean, obviously
Probably.
he had a chip on his shoulder. It's a horrible thing, but it
Yeah.
seems personal.
He
the way
didn't
he went
have
after.
to, single
Yeah.
out Gaétan. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And as we know, Gaétan also passed away in 1984 due to complications from AIDS. But his story continues. In his letter from the beginning, he said that his mind was finding peace again as well. And his bestie, also named Gaétan, said that he used to tell her, "One day I'll be a star." And he's definitely a star of some sorts. I don't know if it really
Hayley.
worked out. I mean, he is. He's kind of iconic. Look up a picture
He's
of him.
the star of this podcast episode.
Yeah, he definitely is. But that is the story of Gaëtan Dugas. If you want to learn more about it, there are plenty of other podcasts and different resources. I'll cite all of my sources in the podcast notes today, but that is what I've got. Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride, happy June, and we shall see you guys shortly. If you want to keep listening, head on over to Patreon. We're going to record our extra credit. We are also going to be recording a show and tell and a Smart Alec today, so there's going to be all that good new June content coming your way. And we love you so much. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Send this episode to a friend and do all the things. We
know you can do it. Things are hard,
you
but
know what to do.
Not too hard for you.
No. So 3, 2, 1.
Class dismissed.